you get to issues of mortality and immortality, right? And there's a little anchor in that, in the introduction, and then a whole chapter on it. One of the rules is, well, in the original, it's been called "Don't strive for immortality," right? Might change for sacrifice immortality. Now, why do we want greatness? And they showed this. This isn't referenced so closely in the book, but it's not from nowhere. They show this in the research program of the psychology of death, right? It's called. There's a book called "The Worm," the worm in the apple, or the worm. Yeah, so something like that, right? And it's by the psychologists of death, or social psychologists, and they display through many experiments where they can prime people to and then look at how they respond to different questionnaires or different experiments and so forth. So they show that if you scare somebody or you remind them of their mortality, or you remind us of our mortality, we become more attracted for a moment to for the next few moments to famous people, to money, to fame, we become more defensive of our political positions or opinions or beliefs, or religious beliefs for that matter. So there is some sort of connection, and this goes back to the 70s book. It's called
Denial of Death.
Yes, Denial of Death. So these were the actual students of Ernst Becker. Who wrote, and it's called the name of the main program director of that research context eludes me at this time. But anyway, they wrote this whole book about it, collating many years of studies on this topic, right? And
is this like terror management? Is that what they call it, or something like that?
Well, I don't think this was the terror management theory, folks, but sure, it connects to that theory. But there is something to do. There's something about meaning in our lives, and this sense of transcending death or cheating death, right? And if you look at it archetypally, we all know that accepting death and mortality has to do with, being good or virtuous. And we all know that the denial of death has to do with some sort of deal with the devil, or some sort of evil, basically. For instance, like an evil necromancer. We could love the necromancer. Wow, he's bringing corpses back. That's wonderful. They're back. They're alive. They're dancing, and the skeletons are dancing, or whatever, right? But that's not how we see it. And we also see in historical figures, the Qin emperor in China, right? After he had created the first unified Chinese empire, he got really paranoid. And he started, killing off all of these wise men who couldn't cure his mortality, and eventually poisoned himself with mercury, I believe, or something to that effect. And Voldemort and Harry Potter, or vampires, right? Or they deny death, right? And a person who accepts death becomes an angel and goes on to another world and has no ghosts left, or nothing lingering on, right? We also know that the heroes in stories, they will sacrifice themselves and not seek recognition for it. We know that the villains in stories will be those who want greatness. Scar, he wants he wants recognition, wants power, and wants greatness, right? And of course, we know the bad guys in politics are going to say, "Make America great again," and stuff like So there's this longing for the logic goes, if I am some sort of non-corporeal, if I'm some sort of non-corporeal self, this self can tag things as this is me, I am that, right? If that thing is so strong that it lives on, then I will have been chosen. I will have achieved immortality, right? And somehow the longing for greatness, for exceptionality, is that, right? It is us unskillfully managing the unacceptance of death, or the fear of death, or the terror of death. There are even terrors beyond death that we also, so terror management, I suppose, could be applied here. But I mean, in deep but dark psychedelic experiences, for instance, you can, or really bad nightmares, you can be stuck in tunnels that are literally inescapable, or let's say some really bad enemies capture us and put us in a cellar, and they find a way to keep us alive and prohibit us from killing ourselves while torturing us, right? So there's no escape, and time is eternal or very slow, and there will always be torment, just the pure terror of unknowing that there will be no escape ever, right? That's much worse than death. So the actual depth of how bad things can get scares the living shit out of us, and we want some sort of shield from that. However, there is such a thing as inner peace, or just happiness and being in the now. Just when the clouds of worry, or the clouds of stress and competition and so on just subside, and you feel directly connected with the freshness and just basic goodness of life, of existence. And in those moments, you don't think about greatness or immortality. So we sort of know which direction is the good one, which one is the bad one, right? We sort of intuitively know it through our archetypal stories, through everything else, and we sort of know that the part in me that wants to be great, I have it too, right? And I write books, I want recognition for them and other things. But I mean, on some level, we know that wisdom or real happiness, or the thing that we really can give to others and to really transcend ourselves, have to do with letting go of that stuff, right? And to forgive the world for not having chosen little me to be Jesus or something like that, and just be okay with it. And the more, I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do. This is the biggest existential or spiritual feat that we can perhaps pull off. But if we at least know the direction, we can try and walk in that direction of not needing to achieve that immortality. And if the rules that are set up, or the principles that are set up in the book, try to help us step by step to dissolve some of those inner knots, neuroses, whatever you want to call them, that linger, that create a sort of contraction around certain self structures, so that we can have self structures, but we can hold them much more lightly, and just be a little bit more open to this cosmic joke, right? That nevertheless is being pulled on us, that we don't really know anything, that here we are, and things happen that always surprise us, and things that seem really bad turn out to be really good, and all of those things. And if we can come a little closer to that cosmic joke, then we notice, well, the ordinary things that we were looking past are actually very sublime, very beautiful. and you put many ordinary things together, and voila, you have fantastic things. All right, and this is what the elite, sportsmen and stuff say as well, right? It's okay. How did they achieve mastery? Through the very diligent coordination of a lot of small, very trivial actions, right? So loving all of those small, trivial actions, nevertheless, helps us function and doing that with motivation and happiness and meaning and so forth. Nevertheless, serves our worldly success as well. Except the worldly success tends to be formulated in a saner manner. We tend to have saner goals if we're not being corrupted all the time by, okay, I have to prove myself, or else God will throw me in hell, or I will have lived for nothing, or I will be a nobody. You're not a nobody. Everybody is a nobody, and you're one or you're not one. I mean, it doesn't help to be Michael Jackson. It's not more important to the universe that you're Michael Jackson than that you're Daniel or Artem or just some random person on the street, right? Why would there, like, if there's a God, do you really think that God looks like, wow, a lot of people think Billie Eilish is a thing, right? Wow, 100 million people, followers on Instagram. That, like, why would the highest principle care, right? So quite obviously, if we're looking for the highest principle, it's going to be something along the lines of just, love, being, forgiveness, what you can contribute, all of those things, right?